All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Shawn Stewart Show, and this is a very special guest. He is an American actor, writer, producer, director, journalist, model, and reporter, and he wrote, produced, and acted in the comedy Blaxican Brothers in 2011, and then next year he did a anti-bullying short film called A Perfect Prank in 2012. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. David Kano to the program. Welcome, David, and how are you doing so far, my friend?
I'm doing well, Sean. I don't know if I'm all those things right now, but I appreciate it.
Thank you so very much. Sorry if I got the misinformation because I read it from your Wikipedia.
No, it's all correct. I've done it all. When you put it in those types of terms, it's a lot.
Yeah, so I do have a lot of words. People do say that, by the way. So, how you been, my friend?
I've been doing well. Just out here in Los Angeles, California, with a bunch of different current projects going on. So everything's going well.
So, what's your current project? What are you doing right now?
Oh, I have a couple projects that I've been working on. One is with a UFC fighter, which I'm not going to name yet until that thing goes.
Right.
It's a possible show that we're working on. I'm also currently working on a documentary with NFL players, both current and former, along with fighters, that deals with concussion.
Yes.
PTSD. And in addition to that, I'm working on other film, TV projects, and at the same time covering MMA as well. So.
Alrighty, good for you. At least you're doing something, and I'm looking forward for it. Now, we can go on with the MMA talk. Alright, so UFC 204 just happened this Saturday night, and I actually watched the fight. I actually watched the main card. So, the one exciting fight I was looking forward to is Michael Bisping and Dan Henderson. By the way, when I looked at Michael Bisping, wait, he been fighting this for long. He hasn't got a title fight, but this is his first time defending his belt. And I gotta say, that was a terrific fight. I thought Dan Henderson won that fight, but the judges gave Michael Bisping that fight. It was like 48-47. So, did you agree with the judges that Michael Bisping should have won that fight? And by the way, that was Dan Henderson's last fight.
Right. I think two of the judges had it 48-47. One judge had it 49-46.
Right.
I didn't score it that way. I had it for Henderson 48-47. The first two rounds, I think Henderson took. With the first round, you could have went with a 10-8 round. I did think Bisping did scored enough points early on that even though he was hurt and almost finished, that to not give Hendo the 10-9 round. So I had scored the fight for Henderson 48-47.
Now, on one of the rounds when Bisping was almost knocked out, I thought the fight was over, but all of a sudden Michael Bisping just came up and just fight back. I was like, oh, this fight's not even over. I think this fight could be in 4 rounds, and technically I was right about that.
Right, I'm surprised it actually went 5 rounds. Even in the second round, Henderson had Bisping hurt, not as much as the first. I think the 5th round, if you look at the judges' scorecard, it didn't matter on Andy Roberts, who scored 49-46. But the other two judges gave the 5th round to Bisping, which I thought was a pretty even round, and then Henderson got the takedown. And a lot of fights lately, or over the years of the UFC, if you get a takedown, they're taking into account that takedown. So in an even round, I thought that made a difference, but it was in England, and that may have been a part of it.
Right, because here in the East Coast, I think it was around 11:30-ish, around 11:30 midnight-ish in the Eastern Standard Time, and then in London, it's 5 in the morning or something like that. So it was if you're in London, you're probably are we watching this fight late at night?
Right, yeah, it was early time. I just think that the judging would have been different had it been out of England. If it was in Vegas or anywhere else, maybe even Brazil, I think they'd give that decision to Henderson.
Right, and now I did mention earlier that Dan Henderson will be retiring, and he was the last Strikeforce light heavyweight champ and was the last welterweight and middleweight champion of Pride Fighting Championship. How would you remember Dan Henderson?
Well, Dan Henderson was, when I was young, coming up, the only thing you could watch Friday was through online YouTube clips and whatnot, and obviously all those fights were pretty much already done by the time I started following along and watching him. So the way I would see Henderson is as obviously a Pride champion, but even in the UFC he did a lot. He fought Anderson Silva, which I thought he was going to beat Silva, and then Silva ended up submitting him. But he'll go down as one of the greatest early pioneers in MMA history. There's no doubt about that. You put him up there with the Fedors and Mirko Krokop and the Nogueira, Rodrigo Nogueira.
That's what I was going to say.
And you put him up there with, like Vitor, Vanderlei Silva, Chuck Liddell. All these guys will go down that they did something that no one else had done up to that point.
Now, do you think he'll be a first ballot Hall of Famer?
Oh, definitely he'll be in the UFC Hall of Fame, and if they have an MMA Hall of Fame, an overall one, there's no doubt that he'll be first up.
Right. Now, I did know. Well, we already know that UFC is owned by a new company. It's not the Fajita brothers, because they did sell the shares, not the whole company. Because I have to explain that. So, what do you think could be the future of the UFC since it's now owned by a new company?
I think the future is it's entertainment, and they were bought by William Morris Endeavor.
Correct.
Which is one of the biggest agency, theatrical, commercial, what have you, of celebrities, talent in the world. You have William Morris, ICM, TAA, UTA, the big four, and so it's going to be more entertainment based. You have a lot of the people that bought in, Tom Brady, Conan O'Brien, Sylvester Stallone, Serena Williams, all these people that are buying in, they're all athletes / plus entertainers, and I think that's where you're going to get more entertainment out of it. The UFC 204, the first time the credits rolled, the show said it was executive produced by WME's the two owners from Ari Emanuel and Patrick Whitesell, and then Dana White. So again, it's entertainment, so they're putting the credits where they should be due, and I think it's going to be more. You'll see more of that.
David Kano on the Shawn Stewart Show. As we know, since 2011, I've been watching UFC ever since. Because before it was on UFC on Fox, it was on Spike TV, which many people don't watch the fights on Spike TV unless it's Bellator right now. So because I know in the UFC is popular in Europe, it's popular in Asia, by the way. What does UFC has to be popular in the United States?
I think the UFC is popular in the United States. I think its biggest fan base is probably the United States, and along with Brazil and even England and Ireland,
right?
Some of those countries. I think where it needs to grow is obviously in the other countries like Asia. I think Russia is pretty big as well, even though UFC hasn't been there yet.
Now, what has the MMA MMA promotions done what boxing hasn't done in the last couple of years?
MMA has promoted their fighters, which means not just their megastars, which boxing is really good at promoting their megastars, which is only a handful. But they, like the Ultimate Fighter, they had a TV show where people got to know these individual fighters, and so fans and audiences, they have a stake into these fighters' careers and what they're doing. They want to follow them afterwards. Boxing, you have the main event. Obviously, we don't know the Cottos, the Canelos, the Mayweathers, Pacquiao's. But when they have the undercard, no one knows who they are. There's not a show highlighting who they are, their background. So when they fight before a main event, it's like water. People aren't really there to see that because there's no invested interest, you can get water anywhere. Let me say, I'm speaking hypothetically, not if not everyone can get water, but
right.
But I'm just saying that's what they do. They're master promoters, and what they do is you put multiple athletes or fighters on, in which they get some TV time and some shine, and they start building a following.
John Jones, by the way, John Jones. Right now, let me see what his record. His record is 22-1, because like 6 years ago, he had a disqualification for that 12-6 elbow, and his situation is not so good because he has been in trouble like plenty of times. So, what do you think will be the future of John Jones?
I think John Jones will be fine. He has a hearing in November. From what he said recently on social media, this hiccup of the PED should be cleared up with whatever it was that he was taking, and once that gets ironed out, I think he'll be back on track.
Right, because when I first looked at John Jones, I'm sitting there going like, wow, this guy's like really want to fight, and because John Jones has a really, really fan base, and the sad part is, since when John Jones got in trouble with the law, UFC had to take the belt away from him. So if John Jones, let's say like John Jones get ready to fight, do you think he'll be back on track to get that UFC light heavyweight champ?
He'll probably be one fight away.
Like what's his name? Like a Daniel Cormier, because Daniel Cormier got the UFC light heavyweight belt.
Well, Cormier is fighting Rumble Johnson, and so I think maybe they'll give John Jones, one fight, and then if he wins, give him a title shot.
I absolutely agree with that one. David Kano on the Shawn Stewart Show. Now, here's a fighter that everybody knows right now, including young and old, is Conor McGregor. So right now, he is the current UFC featherweight champion. The first time I ever saw Conor McGregor was in 2005 when he was facing Dennis Silver in Boston. And it's like ever since that happened, Conor McGregor has gotten a lot of followers, including on Facebook, and what I'm trying to say. What is so different about Conor McGregor in your eyes?
It goes to his promotion. He's able to promote himself really well and entertain people, and at the same time, he's good at what he does. He's a great fighter. He gets in the cage and he backs up what he says, for the most part. So I think having that mental psyche to get in there and perform inside and as well as outside the cage has propelled him to superstar status.
Because like right now he is like in superstar status, and he'll face against Eddie Alvarez in UFC 205 in Madison Square Garden.
Right, correct.
Yep, that is right. Because actually, by the way, there's going to be like 3 title fights. Because I think that will be the main event. And then the co-main event will be the welterweight Tyron Woodley against Stephen Thompson. And then for the women's strawweight is Joanna Jędrzejczyk and Karolina Kowalkiewicz. Hope I get that last name right. Which I did get that. Yep, I did get it right. And I also wanted to talk about Ronda Rousey. Because when Ronda Rousey fought, it was like everybody was like eyeing on her, and she was on the cover of magazines, TVs, commercials, and all that other stuff. Again, like you said, it all comes down to promotion. So what makes Ronda Rousey special as a female MMA fighter?
I think it's similar to what makes Conor special is her mental psyche and her will to believe that she can do it and she can overcome obstacles and she can win. I think that anyone that, not just fighters, but in life, anyone that has that skill or that trait or learns how to have that mental psyche of being able to never quit, never give up, and keep going forward, that's people's biggest asset. And
plus, too, her mother was a judo fighter. And then Ronda, I think she won Olympic medal in judo, like in 2008 in Beijing.
Right, she went bronze.
Right, I was like, wow. Because I wonder what's the first time I ever watched Ronda Rousey. I think the first Ronda Rousey fight I ever watched was against Misha Tate back in December 28th. That's when I had my laptop, so I could able to watch the fight. So, what was the first time you ever watched Ronda Rousey?
First time I watched Ronda Rousey.
Or heard
of her. I think I started hearing about her when she went up to train with the Stockton to train, and then I started hearing about her from Strikeforce as well. So she started fighting in Strikeforce. That's when I first heard about her.
And I'm trying to see how long Strikeforce was around before UFC bought them. Because I think because first it was kickboxing, and then like a couple of years later they went to MMA.
I don't recall. As long as I've known Strikeforce, I thought it was always MMA.
Because I'm looking at it right now on the Wikipedia. Because like when they first started Strikeforce, it was kickboxing in '85, and then in 2006 they went to MMA. So yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now you do know. David K. Yep. David Kano on the Shawn Stewart Show. Now, where can my listeners find you on social media, by the way?
Social media, they can find me at the DKANO, the DKNO, and that's my handle for everything that I'm on.
Yep, you can find it. Like he said, you can find him on Twitter at the DKano. That is KANO. And by the way, thank you so very much for having the opportunity to come on the show to interview with you. So keep up the good work.
Shawn, thank you. It was a pleasure.